the state of boxing in 2024 because I have a video. I'm gonna play it for you on the mic of you talking about at the end of 2022 and the fights we didn't see, and I just want you to listen. Okay?
Some fights we didn't get in 2023. We would have liked to see maybe Usyk and Fury. We would have liked to see Crawford and Spence for sure. We'd like to see Haney and Lomachenko. Maybe we'll get that one in 2023. I think Haney and Lomachenko maybe has a better chance to happen than the other ones. You know what? No. I say Fury and Usyk also has a pretty good chance to happen. I'm starting to lose faith in Spence and Crawford making the fight. I'm almost like not even thinking about that fight anymore, because if you think about it, you start to set expectations, and if you start to set expectations, you end up getting disappointed, So
Pretty hopeless that none of these fights would happen besides Usyk and Fury, and
yeah,
we end up seeing all those fights happen over the
all
next 2 years. And
yeah,
is that I was listening to a podcast with Bill Simmons. I don't know your opinion about Bill Simmons, but he's one of the main podcasts that still kind of talks about boxing. And he was saying the Saudi money has kind of changed these guys fighting because he's just Turkey Al Sheik's just giving these guys money and they're fighting now.
yeah. Well, Terry Sheik's good because in terms of making fights, because yeah, the fights get made, but just because they get made doesn't mean they got made at the right time. So
Yeah.
like Spence and Crawford ended up happening, but it didn't happen at the right time. So essentially you don't have the same kind of fight you were supposed to have. Um, Even Lomachenko and Haney, they basically smoked out Lomachenko, let him get a little older so they could compete. It's basically what Canelo did to Golovkin for the third fight as well. Just because a fight happens, the fight happening is not what's important. The fight happening at the right time is important. That's the problem with boxing. Either it doesn't happen or it doesn't happen at the right time.
You
So,
don't think Crawford Spence happened at
in
the right
terms
time?
with
I
Turkey,
thought it happened at the end of the right time, right?
Spence and
Because
Crawford, I mean,
it
Spence
was for
is
undisputed. It would have been an undisputed match before that.
yeah, but it would have been more in their primes, though. Like, I don't know. You have Spence. You don't even know if Spence is anything left still.
I don't think
We're still
Spence is ever
wondering
gonna
what
fight
Spence is
again.
left. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't at the right time in that regard. You wanted to see when they were both, at their best years. That's one positive thing about Turkey LSG. While there is criticism where the cards are too long and they're all pay per view, which is tough because people can't afford pay per views the same way anymore. And there's constant pay per views in boxing, so you're not going to grow the new brand. You're not going to grow the new generation. You're just going to do only pay per views. So that's the negative. But the positive is Sergey Alashik's making great fights, and he's making them at the right time. We're not having to wait for them. He's making them happen when they're supposed to happen. And so that is one of the positives about the guy. He's creating fights and making fights that we don't have to wait for, or otherwise might not even happen.
And he's making them an event. Like you were, I'm grateful that you were able to get me some tickets to the Crawford Madrimal fight, and
Yeah.
Eminem played before. I've never seen Eminem in my life. I got to see Lose Yourself live, fireworks
Yeah.
going off. That stadium
I
was
mean, I guess it
packed.
was cool for you. For us on the East Coast, though, bro, that stuff was on at 1 o'clock in the morning. Like we're waiting
Yeah.
for the fight to happen. But I'm like, I do think there's a little bit too much histrionics. I think in boxing, you don't really need all the frills. People just want the fights.
Yeah, it
So
got
I
to a
think
point where kind of like, let's fight,
I
let's
think
fight.
there's an argument. I think there's an argument where you could have told Eminem to stay home and just and then not, and kept the money in your pocket and made the card no pay per view, made the card just regular the zone, for example,
Yeah.
and save save the money. You paid Eminem and make the show a free instead of pay per view, and I think people would have appreciated that more if you give a boxing fan the option. Okay, we'll give you a performance by Eminem, but it's going to be pay per view, or we'll take Eminem off the pay per view. That way, we can save that money, and we'll make the fight a non pay per view. We'll make the card a regular zone. I guarantee you, almost 100% of the boxing fans would take that option to not have to pay pay per view and tell Eminem to stay home. So yeah, that's the one thing. He's making great fights, and bro, there's pros. Anything in life is pros and cons, right? It's not all positive and all negative. There's
Yeah.
always something in the middle, right? So the in the middle is great fights, and I love the fights that are being made, and I look forward to continuing to watch them because they're amazing, amazing fights, and especially for a big boxing fan like myself. But the other side of it is, are you making this so much of a show because is it about yourself, or is it about what are you trying to do with making this too much of a show? Because in reality, you need to focus more on the boxing, because otherwise you lose. It starts to get a little bit too filled up with unessential stuff.
And one last part. Do you think in 2024 we're better off than we were in 2022? That's kind of where I want to get with this
Yeah,
in boxing.
I think so. Yeah,
We
I
made some
think so.
steps.
And again, going back to Sergey Alashik, he's a big reason for that. Sergey Alashik, it's funny because Sergey Alashik is a big reason for that, and I believe Pro Box TV is a big reason for that. You know, Pro Box TV is a major player in boxing right now. We're making better and better fights. We're making a lot of great matchups, as is Turkey Alashik, but we're doing it at a little bit lower level. But we have daily talk shows. Boxing has a home to where you get all your boxing content consistently on a regular basis, sort of like the old ESPN Sports Desk, Sports Center approach. You know, so I like that. And I think the combination of those two things, because you still have the big players, you still have PBC, you still have 800 Matchroom, you still have Top Rank and ESPN, but now you also have these additions here, really making things really interesting. I think Pro Box TV makes things really interesting, and it's affordable, and people can always go to the hub for boxing, go back to Pro Box TV and hear our discussions. Even if you miss the fights, you know, we see the fights. So the next week we're always chatting about them and talking about them on our talk shows and our news pieces, constantly, every day. And then Turkey Al-Rashid making these cards, you know, yeah, the cons are they're all pay-per-view, but the pros are you're getting a lot of good fights. You know, you're getting a lot of great fights, and you get them at the right time. Remember, fights don't have to happen in boxing; they have to happen at the right time. If they're happening at the wrong time, it's not the same thing. You know, so you want the timing of these fights to be at the proper time, and boxing fans understand that. The casual may understand that. So you wait and you make it later on, so you get more casuals to buy it because the interest builds. But in reality, you're betraying the true boxing fan when you do that, because the true boxing fan knows if the timing of the fight is correct or not.
So is Usyk Fury timed right?
Huh?
Was Usyk and Fury timed right? Was that good timing?
Usyk and Fury timed right because Usyk wasn't a heavyweight, right? So he got there, and you know, he had to build up into the heavyweight division. You could say the same thing about Crawford and Spence, but Crawford was on a knockout streak to begin with, even at welterweight. So you kind of should have just made the fight earlier, you know. Usyk kind of really built into the heavyweight division. He wasn't knocking out guys like that, like to where you could see he was a real heavyweight. You know, you actually, as a matter of fact, I thought Usyk struggled when he first got that heavyweight division against Chisora early in that fight and things like that, you know. But nonetheless, speaking of that, so Turkey, I wish you should get Chisora a fight, bro. Chisora is Mr. Titanium, bro. He comes till when you think he's gone, he comes back, bro. That is one of the more, speaking of fun fighters to watch, he will go down as one of the more fun fighters, fan friendly. He's like a people's champion, bro. Chisora, man. Chisora for president. 2024, Chisora.
So if Turkey Al-Rashid calls you right now and says probably 20 mil, you're fighting Brenner again, you doing it?
I always say I can't be bought. I don't know. I don't think there's any interest anyway. I don't think. Again, I'll always have like a little bit of a bitterness in my mouth about that, because there was such a potential.
Your stance on you're not fighting again.
There was such a potential, you know, like it was like we could have had a trilogy with the championship of the world on the line. We were changing hands. We were champions, man. You know, like you do it later, it's not the same thing. You know, you just basically
you're to sell some hats.
you're just trying to recycle names that were at one time big, you know. But if you would have done that at the right time, bro, you had the championship of the world in our hands, bro. It would have been going back and forth in a trilogy. That's it. You had all the ingredients, and they still spoiled the sauce. Only boxing can do that. Only the political idiots running the show could do that. Or whatever. It is what it is. It passed already.